This is the Extensionists, Conversations with Great Thinkers in Agriculture. I'm Toban Dyck.
And I'm Jay Whetter.
So Jeff, you talk about, in the pre-interview notes that we have, you talk about a passion for instilling a love of nutrient management in your students. And I would love to know, how do you do that? What's your technique?
Oh, I guess, yeah. So you think about that, and to get people excited about something and make them want to listen, I guess, is to, very carefully, and I think adding a little bit of entertainment to it, explaining, the processes that are involved, but also drawing on lots of experience in the field that you may have gained from your research projects. So sharing research results, personal experiences that you've had, and always stressing what the applicability of your findings are. So that, even when you get into some of the very basic chemistry of, what's going on, and it can kind of, it can be kind of a little bit of a snore city, perhaps, if you think about, getting into a lot of detail about mechanisms of sorption, for example. But if you kind of relate that back to, okay, this is what the grower is going to see in the end. This is what they have to deal with. And this is how a solution might be applied to address that. Then you kind of get people's attention, and they think, okay, yeah, here's what's going on, and here's some things that we can do, and that's pretty interesting. And here's some examples of where it actually worked, and also some examples of where things don't work. That's the other thing too, and those are sometimes just as valuable, if not more, than where you do see the big effect.
I mean, you're a great speaker. Speak with a lot of enthusiasm. You like speaking with your hands. You make facial expressions. But how do you make this entertaining? You use the word entertaining.
Yeah. I want to know what that. Yeah.
Like, do you tell jokes? Do you do little skits?
Yeah. I guess I'm not a big joker, and I'm not really quick on my feet I can't remember most jokes is the reality. Not and I get to the punchline and it kind of but yeah, I think entertaining is really keeping up the pace and looking at the audience and seeing when they kind of are starting to not off, looking off out in a different direction, and to put something in maybe that kind of is a little bit of a different, kind of shocks a little bit. So you're kind of always just kind of trying to go along, and then look, okay, and they say, well, what about this? What about this? Ask lots of questions, right?
Get that feedback. Like,
I like that.
I'm asking this, Jeff, because a big part of the point of this podcast is to not just talk about ideas, but to look at new ways of extending ideas, effective ways to get an idea across. And I think, keeping the pace up, keeping the energy up, recognizing when your audience is kind of going off on tangents or falling asleep.
Oh, and like the well-timed shock too. Like you mentioned, people are dozing, or you kind of work at a climax, and all of a sudden, boom! You hit them.
Boom! Yeah.
Have you ever been to one of those 4D theaters where they have like they splash water in your face, or they poke you in the back?
Yeah. Well, at least they shake the seats.
Yeah.
I've experienced that. I don't know about water. I haven't had water in my face, but I felt the seat shake underneath me. So,
I like that. That's fun. They should do that in university lecture halls. That'd be really effective.
that's right. Yeah.
So you could just give them a poke in the back.
Like professors got like access to these buttons under their desk that they can just
that's right.
Oh, I love it.
Although shaking their sheets, that sounds kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't go there.
No, exactly.
Anyway, Jeff, so we could go down all kinds of rabbit holes with, and in an hour, it's not enough time to talk about everything that's in your head, obviously. No, I'm not changing the subject.
Okay, good.
I just want to ask Jeff what do you think are the really key things in this day and age in nutrient management that need to get extended more? Like, because these are not necessarily new concepts, but are there things that you see out there that could be done more or better?
Yeah, I guess I'm a strong believer in diagnostics, soil testing, tissue testing. I mean, getting out there and finding out, what's going on, if there's a problem there, diagnosing it. So, the kind of forensic agronomy
Oh, fun.
I think
Yeah.
is something that is really, really important. And there are so many people. I mean, and I teach my soil fertility class this year, has over 100 people in it. Many of them are agronomy majors. Many of those folks will go back out and they will work with growers one-on-one, whether as private consultants, whether working, with industry, with retailers. And so I guess I look at it as, my role now. I don't get nearly as many calls from individual farmers as I used to. But I guess the way that I feel is effective in getting my own research information and others out as well as I teach my class is to recognize that those folks are also going to go out there, the people who take my class, and ultimately be working with the growers. So, kind of key concepts, Jay and Toban, that I really want to get across are the 4 R's. The 4 R, right rate, right time, right place, right source. And that kind of underlies a lot of what I cover in my class, that I say, that we need to, we do here, majority of farmers here are using those 4R practices, and we're better than a lot of other areas of the world, but we could always do better. And that's what I say about soil conservation practices. We're the leaders in the world in adoption of no-till, more than 90%. But I say there's still other things that we can do to make that soil even better. But we've done a darn good job in bringing that soil back from the brink, from where it was 40 years ago when there were all those dust clouds in the sky.
So why are we better?
Yeah.
Like, was it people? Was it particularly pivotal individuals? Was it research right at the right time, or was it Canadian farmers'
policies?
willingness?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things that made that happen. And it's everything from the engineers on the machinery side that developed the machines that made it work, to the extension organizations like Saskatchewan Soil Conservation Association here in Saskatchewan, to the government agencies, the provincial and federal that promoted it, and the universities that became involved and did a lot of the research along with the Agriculture Canada scientists. It all kind of came together, and getting that information out. Some of the biggest extension events that I participated in were some of those no-till field days. I remember one down at Indian Head and on Jim Halford's farm, Jim, the inventor of the Conservapac, where there were 800 people. And it ran over 3 days, and I remember standing out in the field talking, and it was hot. It was July, and busloads came. There was busload after busload after busload. Gave the same talk 9 times. And by the end, I was kind of like, you felt like it was an out-of-body experience where you kind of felt like your mouth was moving and you were talking, but your mind was somewhere else because you were just going through that route. But it was a lot of fun, so getting the message out, I think, was a very, very important part of making that whole no-till conservation agriculture revolution here in the prairies actually take place.
Wow. Yeah.
Do you think those live, sort of hands-on, face-to-face events are still critical to extension?
I do. And I remember when I started out, and I talked a lot to Les, and Les Henry was a real mentor to me. But you kind of started out back then in the 90s. A lot of times it was out to the Legion Hall in small town Saskatchewan, and you maybe had 10 or 20 people there. That's a pretty small crowd by today's standard. But those people were interested. It was one-on-one. It was face-to-face. I think those were some of the most rewarding. And people, were not intimidated to come up, talk to you afterwards. Those great big events like 400 or 500 people, those are fine. Maybe a little bit less personal, but you were still out there talking. And after you finished your talk, you'd go out, you'd wander around through, you'd go out into the hallways, and people would come up. And you had that one-on-one ability and that personal touch. I guess that's kind of lost a little bit in webinars. Webinars are kind of great in the sense that lots of people can ask questions in the chat box. But those people, in a sense, they're imageless, faceless. And so you really don't ever have a chance to follow up with them and find out where they're coming from and what their personal experience is. Instead, it's just a question, this, another question, another question, another question, another question. And so you don't really interact that much. And I'm kind of an interactive person. I want to find out where somebody's coming from. If they don't like something, if something didn't work, hey, I want to dig deep and find out why something didn't work and try to help them out. And in a chat, you can't really get into that level of detail or discussion, unfortunately.
This has been a Burr Forest Group production. We also want to thank the people you don't see.
We're here, we're chatting away with our guests, but there's tons of people who work behind the scenes to make this podcast happen.
Ryan Sanchi is our director.
Ashley Robinson is the coordinator.
And Abby Wall is our producer and editor.